Welcome back. For anyone who knew polio, the thought of being put into the iron lung struck fear in their heart. But for some patients, it was all that kept them alive when their muscles were too weak or paralyzed to breathe on their own. A handful of polio survivors still live in these, but most iron lungs are museum pieces like this one in Warm Springs, Georgia.
It works like your diaphragm does. It creates what's called a negative pressure and literally pulls air into the lungs. And part of pulling the air into the lungs and then letting the air flow back out increases the blood flow in and out of the heart and in and out of the lungs.
Dianne Odell of Jackson, Tennessee has lived in an iron lung longer than almost anyone. For 58 years, her life depended on this device, ever since contracting polio at the age of 3 in 1950.
And we were catching June bugs and putting them on strings, letting them fly around our heads. And I told her I didn't feel good, I was going to go lay down. I was up all night with a headache and my legs hurting. That morning I could not walk.
Soon, she couldn't breathe and was put in an iron lung. As a child in the 50s living in an iron lung, Dianne had lots of company, as thousands of other children were in the same situation in hospitals from coast to coast.
They would push our iron lungs close together so we could play together. And our playing together consisted of our spitting at each other because we couldn't do anything else.
Doctors working in those hospitals still recall the constant hum of all those iron lungs operating simultaneously.
On the third floor of Municipal Hospital, there was a ward filled with iron lungs, and the noise was deafening, and I hated to go up there because it was depressing.
You might think that after all these years, technology would have evolved to present Dianne with other options.
For other people, there are other solutions. There are chest respirators that fit on your chest, but that's for people who have a straight spine. I don't. My spine is curved just like an S.
Today we have positive pressure ventilators, which literally blow air down into your lungs and don't have the same effect on circulation, for example. So that there are a number of polio survivors who have tried to go on the positive pressure ventilator, and they just can't tolerate it.
And from her position in the respirator, this is how Dianne sees the world, through mirrors, because she's been flat on her back, day in and day out for more than half a century. When Dianne was diagnosed with polio and put in an iron lung, her parents, Geneva and Freeman Odell, never considered institutionalizing her. From day one, they were committed to caring for her at home, even though the experts of the day suggested sending her away. As they speak, you can get an idea of how loud Dianne's iron lung is, day and night.
I think we've just done what most parents would do. I don't think I'd be alive if it wasn't for them.
But as Dianne's parents get older, the question is, who will take care of Dianne when they're gone? Her sisters are not equipped to maintain an iron lung. Today, nobody is. There are only about 30 people in the U.S. still living in iron lungs.
It's sad because these 30 folks who are still in iron lungs really got blown off. There was a company that was servicing the iron lungs, and it was bought out by another company. And the folks who were in the iron lungs were told by letter that the new company would no longer service their iron lungs, and they would have to go to a positive pressure ventilator. Some of them were not physiologically able to do that. So these poor folks who are in iron lungs are literally on their own.
Dianne's family set up a special charity to provide for her continuing care. It receives lots of web hits and messages from others who cannot fathom living life in her situation.
Most of them said, I'd rather be dead. I couldn't live that way. I'd rather be dead. Nobody would rather be dead. They think at the spur of the moment, but there's always tomorrow. And there's always something exciting or something thought of at that particular moment.
Dianne Odell was an inspiration to all those who knew her. Sadly, just a few months after our interview, tragedy struck. An electrical storm knocked out power to Dianne's iron lung, and the backup generator failed to operate. The ravages of polio finally took its toll. Dianne Odell died. Coming up next, we'll look back at the race to find a polio vaccine. And now that we have one, why some families are refusing to use it.